What's up, guys? How you doing? I'm Paul.
I'm Morgan.
I'm Lucy.
I'm Caroline.
And this is Squishy. And we are jumping into a topic today that it's just a very real topic. Not a ton of people are tackling it, but it is worth talking about. And that is the pandemic of gluttony. Morgan and I are pretty passionate about this. It runs in my family, just the topic. And health and all that. And then
Lucy, gluttony does not run in your
I
family.
I rephrased that. the quest for good health runs in my family.
That's it.
Lucy and Caroline, we're pumped that they're here. I know they're gonna have some good stuff to share on this. They've been on a cool journey themselves. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So without further ado, Morgan, would you like to start us with the definition? That was a great idea, Lucy.
Thank you.
All right. Gluttony is defined as the overindulgence or lack of self-restraint in food, drink, or wealth items, especially as status tokens. The English word comes from the Latin and means to gulp.
To gulp. That is a very visual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gluttony worships food to feed our own self-love. That's crazy. Merriam-Webster defines gluttony as habitual greed or excess in eating, greedy or excessive indulgence. Yes. So there we have it.
Wow. They don't hold back.
So it's a real thing. It's in Merriam-Webster.
Yeah, if it's in Merriam.
Did
Merriam.
I don't
Merriam.
know. I don't know what it is.
If it's in the Webster, it's real. Oh, goodness. Well, I feel like one of the reasons we decided to choose this topic as our live is, as you guys know in the past two videos that we have talked about, Paul and I are going to be teaching a Trainer Joe's program, which is just a 21-day transformation program that focuses on health and weight loss. But as Paul and I are preparing to teach that, it's just been more on the mind of the struggle of obesity in America, the struggle of gluttony, the struggle of we want it, we get it right here, right now.
Yeah.
If it's not in our kitchen, it's in the grocery. If it's not in the grocery, it's at McDonald's. And it's a problem. And it's the most.
Could we call it a pandemic?
I think we could.
I think we could call it a pandemic for sure.
Yeah. Even just in you talking about this, it's just what do? We wake up and what do? We eat. We work to get to lunchtime so we can eat. Mm-hmm. We sometimes exercise so we can justify eating. We eat. What do we do when we celebrate? We eat. And food, food's not the enemy. No. I'll say that. God, in scripture, there's plenty in the Old Testament. There are feasts. There's the comparison of the marriage feast at the end of time to the lamb. So God deems food good, but it's we have lost how we should orient food in our lives. And I think that's where gluttony really becomes an issue, is when we forget the master who gave us the food, gave us the good things, and we're trying to solve issues with food. I don't know.
Ooh, that's a good discourse,
that's
Lucy. Here's a thought I have. Gluttony. You just gave us some definitions for gluttony. If someone's watching and they're I am heavy, I'm very heavy, does that mean that they are gluttonous? We're jumping right into it. Does that mean, is that an outward, whatever visible way to tell that they are gluttonous? And I know your definition said you can be gluttonous with a number of things, but food, drink, and
main focus, is food and drink.
And then wealth was another one, but specifically food. Is a person that is heavy, is it a person that is obese, mean that they are indulging in gluttony?
I know what you want to say. I'm not going to say that. But I just wanted to say, for me personally, where I struggle with gluttony, yes, it was reflective in my weight. So that's what I was going to say. You go ahead.
And you've lost how much weight?
55 pounds.
Whoa, up high.
And that's all because of Trainer Joe 21-day transformation. There's still time to sign up. Please do it.
And we can talk more about that
yes.
Later on in the video.
But yes.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to acknowledge that there are, like, health conditions. Like, I think we just need to say that we know that there are health conditions that do sometimes cause people to be overweight. So I think we need to, like, put that out there.
Or at least cause people to be hungrier.
But no, I mean, to be overweight. I mean, there are people with thyroid issues. Their thyroid is really messed up. So they gain weight.
And that's a very...
So I just want to put that...
We can talk more about that as well.
I want to put that out there. Because I personally know people who struggle with thyroid issues. I also know people who have to be on medicines who, yes, they make them hungrier. So I think we should acknowledge that aspect of it. So no, I don't think every heavier person is, oh, that's gluttony, right? Like, I don't think that's necessarily true. And I would go so far as to say that that being heavy is not necessarily the be-all, end-all indication, personally, for gluttony. I think that I know that there are a lot of skinny people who are very gluttonous. Like,
ooh,
I think when people hear the term gluttony, they think oversized people. And so they tend to, like, shrink back from that, no pun intended. But, like, the truth of the matter is gluttony is not a weight issue. Gluttony is a heart issue. And it can reflect, yes, in your outer appearance, but also there are lots of skinny people who are very gluttonous. Like, yeah. So.
And real quick, Caroline, I see that we got a super chat. Thank you so much.
Already!
At the end of our discussion here, we'll get into Q&A.
Yeah,
we'll look at what you guys are writing. We're pumped for that, and any super chats are much appreciated.
Yeah.
Especially,
give money.
So, hold on, Caroline.
Yeah.
I heard you just give a very, I appreciated your words. I felt like there was wisdom, but I'm just being honest. I might push back a little bit.
Do it.
Well,
Caroline's good with this.
So I think a lot of people, and I agree, there are health conditions that can cause a person to become overweight because they don't understand what their medications are doing to their bodies.
That's true.
I think for me, I have a thyroid issue, and I take a medication. It's a nature thyroid medication, and it could bump up my hunger, and it does. I've noticed it. I feel a lot hungrier at certain times of the day that I did not used to feel hungry. And so I have to say, okay, did I get enough calories yesterday for my body, how I want to look, how I want to weigh? Do I need to eat right now, or is it just this medication that is messing with me, telling me I'm hungry when in actuality, healthily, I do not need to eat? So, that's hard. That's hard to do. I get why so many people, like, say that birth control makes you gain weight, says that thyroid medication makes you gain weight, you know, and women who struggle with thyroid issues and hormonal issues, you might have a much slower metabolism.
Sure, it can affect the body.
Yeah, so that means you have to do a lot more sometimes. Like, one guy can walk a lap and burn 10 calories, you walk a lap and you burn 2 calories. So, like, you have to...
If you're only burning 2 calories walking the whole lap...
whatever.
Then you might need
It's a good example. We get it.
But yes.
So yeah, but also, yeah, I mean, I know that there are things, but I think that this world and the mindset that we've allowed ourselves to fall into is that, well, I'm on a medication and I just have to eat more, or I've got this issue and that's why I'm heavy. And it's like, well, let's look at everything that you've been eating. And does food tell you when to eat, or do you tell food when you're gonna eat? Like, I don't know.
Pause for a nail shout out. These late
Squishy
just burped in my face.
I'm so used to it, like, didn't even phase me.
Look at these girls' nails. All 3 of them are killer.
Theirs are way better than mine.
Give them a zoom.
No, they're not.
Give them
Yours
a
are
zoom.
so pretty.
No.
I love zooming. It's blurry.
That's blurry.
I'm
It's
just a
fine.
good old-fashioned French nude manicure.
Beautiful.
So, one other thing as we just continue jumping
this is
into...
so awkward, but I just want to hold on to something.
It's kind of fun. Jumping into different aspects of this, because there's plenty more here. Caroline, you mentioned the person that is underweight that can be gluttonous.
Yeah.
So here's my question, because obviously if you can be a drunkard, a wine bibber, as Jesus called him, I believe. Or no,
is that?
Some people call Jesus a wine bibber. You can be a drunkard on alcohol or whatever. Yeah, just drink too much. and you can be skinny. But as far as you can be gluttonous and underweight, because Morgan and I were discussing this and we were looking for a picture to put in our thumbnail, and Morgan found a very thin person with junk food all around them. And we thought about using that, but we ended up not. A skinny person, and this is just, I'm just discussing it genuinely, a skinny person or an underweight person can eat crappy food, no nutritional value.
Be incredibly unhealthy.
They can be incredibly unhealthy, but as far as being, I mean, here's what I thought. I have a friend who eats a lot. Whether it's healthy food or it's not, he eats a lot, but he is the right weight.
But he has some kind of like health thing where his metabolism literally is like the fastest his doctors have ever seen.
He's got a really good metabolism. But then I'm sure we all know people like that were like, they eat a lot or they eat kind of junky and they're the right weight. So I would say there is something when it comes to just health and body mass index, and we're about to get into some COVID related stuff. If you're obese, the negative effects that can have if you get COVID, all that, this type of stuff. If you are obese, it is doing something to your body that if you are the right weight, I don't care what you're eating, you're going to be probably in a better place than if you are 100 pounds overweight or 80 pounds overweight or 70 pounds overweight. Is that making sense?
No, yeah, I get that.
I
guess I would just say, like, gluttony, like I took this whole ethics course, right? And we talked about the 7 deadly sins, gluttony being one of them. And what we really honed in on is that gluttony, it comes out in food, right? But it is a matter of the heart.
Sure.
It is a big heart issue.
Perhaps.
So just because you're not seeing physical effects of gluttony, and you probably are, you probably don't feel good,
Yeah.
Just because you don't see them doesn't mean it's not there, and once again, gluttony it's an overindulgence.
Yeah.
That is what gluttony is. And a skinny person can overindulge and stay skinny just as much as a heavier person can overindulge and gain weight. I just think it would be really unfair to say that gluttony is a one-size sort of situation, or it's it looks just this way. Because once again, it's a matter of the heart. You're trying to feed something, with food that can only be satisfied with Jesus. So I think, it's just really important to keep that perspective. And, I think it really helps me anyways, not be too critical, I guess, of people who are overweight, if that makes sense. Not be like, oh my gosh, they're gluttonous right off the bat, because there are plenty of skinny people, once again, that I know that are really gluttonous, that are trying to fill a void with food. So I think when you look at it from that angle, from that definition, then skinny people can definitely be gluttonous.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Lucy, Morgan, thoughts?
I guess I agree to a certain extent. And like something I was thinking about too is just like maybe the people who are thinner, who are still gluttonous and like overeat, maybe they're just trying to focus more on exercise or something like that. And I don't know. I don't really know.
I mean, if a
it does seem like an anomaly.
If a skinny person, assuming they're not doing, bad harmful things to themselves to stay skinny and binging and all that stuff, or what's it called? I mean, there's
bulimia.
Yeah, that type of stuff. Assuming they're not doing that, if they're skinny, but then they're overeating. Are they really overeating? I
mean, I think yes, they are.
But so do they cut?
Up?
Do they cut their No, I'm saying assuming they don't have
just
these.
Because they say skinny doesn't mean they're not overindulging. Like they're still being gluttonous.
If they cut the calories, that means they're going to get even more skinny.
What? If they cut the calories?
If they reduce their calories.
How are they reducing their calories?
No, gluttony is eating too much.
But you're saying if a person's skinny and they can be gluttonizing on food, then what should happen? Should they stop overeating? Then they're going to get even skinnier.
I mean, it's once again, it's eating.
I
guess I see
what
what you're saying, but
you
gluttony
fear
is eating to excess.
But if you're eating to excess,
And
that
you're
will...
not
So
putting
they
on
don't need
weight.
to be eating to excess. I'm saying, like, everyone has, like, their normal amount of calories they need to get. And then they go over that.
Right.
If a skinny person doesn't...
It's going over
Over
those
that-
calories, but it
then
isn't really showing up on their body.
Then they
like,
won't remain skinny if they're going over that.
I mean, that's a good point.
I mean, no, but like,
Normally,
but
but
no,
not
I mean,
always.
it's, and once again, gluttony is not necessarily something. I think it's something that can happen once or twice. Like, it's not something that like you always
It doesn't
sit
have
in.
to be a pattern of behavior.
You know what I
Sure.
mean? It doesn't
Fair
necessarily
enough.
have to be a
Fair enough.
pattern. But I mean, also, I mean, people still, once again, it's a matter of the heart. So they still need to do something. They still need to evaluate. Okay, if I'm eating for the purpose of filling something that
So there may be a little bit of a
Lord-
difference between gluttony, which kind of does stem from the heart, as we're all agreeing on, and overeating.
Like occasionally
Oh,
overeating.
because again, if a
always
thin person is overeating, are they really overeating if they're remaining thin? But anyway, all right, that's
And Paul's saying this
I get what you say. I
because
get what you're saying.
with his dad and his program and the past 11 years of his life running this program, like something that Trainer Joe says is calories in, calories out. So what you take in, you will start showing on the outside. So if you're eating 2,000 calories, you'll start normally weighing what 2,000 calories makes a person weigh.
you eat for the body you have. So if you weigh 300 pounds and you say, I don't know how I weigh this much, you are eating enough calories to weigh that much. We realize there are certain conditions that may factor in, and we realize that not everybody's starting point fare-wise is the same. There are slower metabolisms, there are medications, but ultimately you do eat enough to maintain the size that you are.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's
And
shift.
I just want to make it clear, sorry for headphone people, that, guys, we're not specialists. We're coming from our
Well,
own...
I technically am
Okay.
a health and nutrition specialist, but continue.
Yes.
Are you actually?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
He's not gonna lie.
I
on-
know nothing about
Paul
Paul.
literally never lies.
This is true.
We're not going. We are not doctors. None of us are doctors. I can say that confidently. And so
Actually, pretty sure I've been in the medical.
you know, hearing what we're talking, I feel like this is a good conversation to have. This is a conversation that very few people are having. So take what we're saying and go to the Lord about it. Go to a doctor about it. Go to your dietitian, whatever, people about it. But don't take this as like medical advice. So
How do I find
this
the
is a
comments?
conversation. You might have to be on the YouTube app.
Ugh, that's so
Caroline, scoot over just a smidge. We're just a tiny bit off center.
This?
Well,
Yes.
No, she can't scoot over really because of the chair.
Oh. Then
I can't
Scoot that way.
over.
Is that what you're saying?
That's hilarious.
So I want to say, for me, my life experience growing up, I was able to eat whatever the heck I wanted, and it was normally junk.
She was the kind of girl I didn't like because I could not do that.
Yeah. And when I hit 22 years old, everything that I ate started to slowly show up on my body, and it was crazy to me because like I went 22 years without experiencing that. I could eat whatever I wanted. And I will say that like my life experience, or just like my own personal experience, like I don't know, I think that I did have a heart of glutton because I would eat a donut and a giant Coke. Like that was like my thing that I went to. And that's what I went to when I was stressed. That's what I went to when I was happy. That's what I went to when I was scared. Like that was my comfort rather than the Lord. And like I had this heart of self-love. Whatever makes me feel good is what I'll do. And that's, it talks about that in the definition of gluttony, is like this is a self-love overindulgence type issue. And it was a heart issue. Granted, it wasn't showing up on my body until I hit 22, and then it started to.
Darn the 20s.
And I had to be like, wait, what the heck? Okay, I had to actually like recognize, okay, there are consequences to the way that I'm eating. Not just I'm gaining weight, but like there are consequences in that I feel like crap. I felt like crap most of my life. Like, from, like, 15 on, I was struggling with depression and all this crap, and I was eating crap. So that definitely wasn't helping with my depression and anxiety and whatnot. Like, eating these sugary, zero health things. Like, not good. So
not good to help like balance body chemicals or things like that. Yeah.
No. So there's that side of this as well. But I think that, like, you know, we're talking specifically right now about just the struggle in America of obesity and some of the research that we were doing before this video and just that we've seen in the past year or so, with specifically like COVID and obesity and the statistics of, and you can share those.
Yeah, so an interesting element to this is you look at America's response to COVID-19. What has it been? Americans, do your part and what?
Wear your mask.
Wear your mask.
Wear your mask and
stay at home.
Stay at home, really. I mean, social distance.
Stay at home or stay 6 feet apart. It's so interesting that, I mean, that's pretty much what you hear, like those two things, social distance and wear your mask. So I was just doing a little research today. This is from the CDC. The CDC says, and just, again, don't get mad at me.
This is the CDC.
This is the CDC. Don't kill the messenger here. The CDC says, having obesity may triple the risk of hospitalization due to a COVID-19 infection. Obesity is linked to impaired immune function. Obesity decreases lung capacity and reserve and can make ventilation more difficult. And listen to this. As BMI increases, because right now it seems like there's this attack on BMI, don't pay attention to the body mass index. And I've heard you said someone was saying that was racist. Don't pay attention to that.
And sexist.
Any size. We're done with the BMI. The CDC says as BMI increases, the risk of death from COVID-19 increases. And then there was another study done among 150,000 adults that were diagnosed with COVID-19, and it said that they took a study of those 150,000 adults who were diagnosed and had to go to like the emergency room or inpatient visits, and 28% of them were overweight, 50% obese. So if I'm understanding this correctly, 50% plus 28%, 80% of these COVID patients that are having to get rushed into the emergency room, inpatient, 80% of them were overweight or obese. So there's obviously huge, significant correlation between being obese and contracting the virus or getting the virus very bad, the intensity of the virus if you're heavier. And yet, what do we see an emphasis at all on Americans getting healthier and losing weight?
No, we
to
see
fight
the
COVID?
opposite.
To fight COVID? I haven't heard. I mean,
No.
Have you guys seen that in commercials? Have you guys seen that being broadcast from the top down?
No.
Wear your mask.
We've seen gyms closed, so gotta figure that out.
Yep.
I mean, I just think it's a really unrealistic to just be putting nastiness in your body, to be incredibly overweight, and then to like be wearing a mask. It's so counterproductive. Like what are you doing? What, like, that's really actually
with one of those studies, that's what it said. It's harder to breathe. Like, it's harder to ventilate.
You know, at the end of the day, like, your biggest issue probably isn't going to be COVID. It's going to be heart disease. And I'm saying that in a spirit of love, because I was there, and, you know, like Lucy, I've lost a good amount of weight. Because I started experiencing like symptoms of diabetes, and so that's when I started like, okay, I really need to like take a step back. And she's so obnoxious.
She is being so
but yeah, to take a step back and to really remember that, especially too, like, if you're coming at it from a Christian perspective, guys, our bodies are the temples of the Holy Spirit. True. Okay, and we are supposed to take care of them. Okay, we are. So do with that what you will.
And God gives us good whole foods. Like, he gives us factories to make junk food too, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe that's all the work of the enemy.
Thank you.
Probably, honestly. Now that I think about it. But, like, he had plentiful, like, nutrition for his original creation, Adam and Eve, and that didn't change after the fall. Like I said in the beginning, he puts an emphasis on food in Scripture. We're not supposed to go without it. I mean, there are seasons when he calls us to fast, but I mean, we can enjoy food without over enjoying it, and just eating to live versus living to eat. Yeah, it's just, and that's what America has done, because they're power hungry. We're power hungry. It's the American mindset. How are we going to make more money? Well, we're going to fill the desires of man's heart. And one of those desires that rises above the desire that God has for us is food. Like, ultimately, we desire food. And so, of course,
our bodies need it.
Well, yeah,
right. Our bodies need food.
But they do not need the excess.
They don't need it in the Big Mac or the Super Size Me meal or, you know, but America knows that's what we like, and so they're going to provide it. So,
I just feel like if you are a believer, no matter what it is, if you're being controlled by something other than the Father and the Holy Spirit, you have an issue that you need to take to the Lord, and you need to gain control over it.
That's good.
If food is literally, like, if you are living to eat, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it in a not biblical way. Like, again, it doesn't just have to be food, but that's just what we're focusing on right now. And we are called to have a healthy view of food. Not an unhealthy way can be not ever wanting to eat it or eating it way too much. That it tells you when your body, yes, you need to learn how to listen to your body, but sometimes our bodies just say things when it's not true. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've eaten dinner and sat down and been like, oh, I'm stuffed. And then Paul comes and sits down with a bowl of cereal, and I'm like,
yeah,
I need that. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm literally stuffed right now. But I go and get a bowl sometimes. And it's like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not actually hungry. I don't need this.
Yeah.
It's overindulging. And we've got to learn to stop overindulging in food, in Netflix, in whatever. All of it. Social media, everything.
So
we
good.
have to be careful with that if we really want to live a holy life.
So I'm about to get a bit more controversial. I had a friend message me or DM me on Instagram, and she said, I'm really glad you guys are tackling this. Okay.
My mom is on.
Oh, nice. She said, I'm really glad you guys are tackling this. Thank you for doing this, because it doesn't get talked about much. And then she said, specifically, I want pastors and leaders in the church to hear this. And then you hear other people saying, like, well, yeah, being obese in the church is the acceptable sin.
Yep.
What do you guys think about that?
Yep. I made a TikTok. Okay. You know it's acceptable when you make a TikTok about it and everyone is, like, super offended.
That's a good point.
So, guys, I made a TikTok about gluttony being the most accepted sin in the church. And don't be deceived. Like, it is a sin. It is sinful. The Bible talks about it over and over again, especially in the book of Proverbs, about how gluttony is not something we should ever want to participate in. In fact, the gluttonous man, I think, is equated to the prideful man. Like, it really is not. As a Christian, like, we are not supposed to be gluttonous.
So what's going on then? Why do we see it not being just, like, rare, but a commonality?
I think I do think it is an American church thing. I really do. I'm not saying that there are not gluttonous people or heavier people in other countries, but I will say, in all the time we spent in France, I never once saw someone who was overweight, ever. And too, like, when we went to a few churches there was no one overweight in the churches or in the pulpit.
So it's become an Americanized, it's kind of like tradition.
I think it's in a mindset.
Habits.
What do you have after your sermon during fellowship time after church? What do you have?
Coffee and donuts.
That's what you have.
That's before church. Then after church,
You might have a potluck.
you rush off to lunch
brunch
with
yeah.
all your friends.
That's
and
literally,
family.
I mean, guys, and I'll confess, not that it's bad, but like, well, I mean, maybe it is. I don't know, I'll confess. That's like one of my favorite parts about Sunday.
Yeah.
Brunch. I
So
love it.
here was a thought I had when
Maybe
my
we should
friend
think about that.
Maybe I should.
when my friend when my friend DM'd me this, I was thinking to myself, okay, this is obviously an issue, not just with pastors, but just church leadership. And I was thinking, how big an issue is it? Let's go to the Word of God. And one of the things that Paul stresses in his letters is for leaders in the church to be above reproach.
Yeah.
And if you, and also being a good caretaker of your home. Yeah. Because if you are not a good caretaker of yourself, your home, you maybe don't need to be taking care of the church as a whole. And I know you guys, like, this, it's not an easy issue to talk about because it's so prevalent.
Yeah.
Whenever something's so prevalent, it's like, don't go there, guys. Let's keep this kind of, this is too big of a deal almost. Like, it's not going to get fixed. It's too big of a deal.
Yeah.
But those were a couple things I thought of. Paul saying, leaders, be above reproach. And I would just say, if this is something that is obviously an issue, it may be worth taking a step back and saying, is my life not above reproach in this specific area?
Yeah.